Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is the second in a series on this mid-century modern inspired walnut dining table. The table has a single leaf at one end, and you'll see in the carcass there are two walnut rails that slide out with full support and will hold the leaf on one end. This allows for continuous grain. Now, let's get to the build. So I've gone ahead and filled in the remaining knots with a mixture of epoxy and some walnut dust. Each board, you'll see I've stacked the leaf and the main part of the table, leaf, main table, etc. And what I'll do then is on both boards where there is some sapwood that I want to remove, I will remove that on the table saw because I have a finished jointed edge on the other side. And I'll make sure that the leaf piece and the table piece are exactly the same width. Right now they're a tiny bit different. So here I have a board. It's number 4-5, so it's somewhere in the middle. And the board, although it's a beautiful grain structure, had an angle to it. So it's much narrower here than here. So I'm going to cut it so that it's at this width. I'm going to lose a bit on here. What I'm doing here is I'm making table saw cuts on all the table and leaf pairs. If I have to cut off a defect or some sapwood on either the leaf portion or the primary table portion, I'll cut this same width on the other part of the pear. This means that when I glue up the tabletop and the leaf section, they'll be the exact same width and I won't have to worry about matching the ends. These table parts are all numbered, which makes the glue up easier and aligning the leaf and table later on. Now the boards are cut to the final width. They're jointed, they're planed, and they're cut to the rough length. I'm now going to start to mark for my dominoes and also mark for the final length. This is the table, the main part of the table boards. So I want to allow for square cuts at each end. I'm going to take off about an inch on each end, and then again mark for dominoes. These are again only for alignment. They don't really provide strength, but they make these glue-ups a little less stressful. I'm marking now for the additional dominoes on the other side of the board. I'm going to do them every 8 inches. So I'm going to cut one domino now, just to show you kind of how I've set this up. I do cut my own dominoes. I just find hardwood scraps, and I have a whole container of these. I'm cutting my dominoes here. I've marked these using a red mechanical pencil, as I always do with walnut, and just aligning the tool and cutting them. Dominoes are a great tool. You could easily use biscuits or dowels. This is only for alignment. There is simply no strength in using dominoes. The wood glue does everything that you need it to. Now I'm going to start to prepare for the long rails of the table, and the short rails. The long rails are here, short rails in here. This is the walnut. An important thing to note, and it's really a safety issue, is some of the boards I bought are surface two sides, so they're smooth. They're not dead flat and dead parallel, but they're enough that I can cut them on the table saw. This is from a previous project where I had some excess walnut, and you'll see this is very rough. It definitely has a bit of a bow and a twist in it. I'll be cutting it short, so this is true 4/4. I won't lose any wood on this. I'll still be able to get my 4/4, 3/4 inch to 7/8 on this. But it's important, you cannot cut this safely on the table saw. It will bind, it will kick back, and burn the wood. Very, very dangerous. Here I'm cutting sections of the rough board for the long and short rails of the table base. I do this on the bandsaw because with slight twist and warping, it's not safe to do this on the table saw. I have very little curved work, so that I use a 3/4 or 1 inch 3 TPI blade for this type of work. So now I have my two rough boards cut. These are, final size is going to be 3.5 by 37 inches long for the long rail of the table for the 56-inch length closed. Joint them and plane them. So I have a second safety switch here. This is a special machine switch. You can buy it at any good electrical supply store. So you'll see right now, I cannot start my jointer. Turn this on now, the indicator comes on, and I'm going to use it. When I finish it, I always shut that off. I have the same switch on my table saw and my lathe. Before I joint any of this wood, I'm checking the grain direction to make sure that I'm jointing with the grain, both on the flat side and on the edge side. This will almost eliminate tear out since I have a helicoid cut header on my jointer and my planer. After each pass, I'm checking to make sure that I see a cut across the entire length and width of the board, in which case I know I'm ready to take it to the planer for final thicknessing. Even though I'm wearing a hearing protection, it's important to listen as you guide the board over the jointer. You will hear when the knives have made contact across the entire length of the board, both on the flat side and on the edge side. This is a clear indication that you've jointed an entire edge, and again that you're ready for the planer. I'm ready to start gluing up one of the main table sections. I still have my carpenter's triangle so that I can align these easier. And you'll see that I also have these indicators where my dominoes are. One of the things I find very helpful are these end alignment tools. They happen to be from Woodpeckers. So anyway, the other thing is I am using for the first time Titebond 2 Dark. So other than that, I've got 3 clamps on the bottom. I'll do 3 clamps on the end, and then I have some very large clamps if I have an end piece or something in the middle that's not quite aligning. So let's start the glue up. My dominoes are already cut. Dominoes are sitting right here. Again, these are really provide very little strength in this respect. They're really just for alignment. And I'll use my little silicone brush here to make sure that I've got good glue coverage, especially at the ends. I am cutting off the ends because obviously I make this a little bit longer than I need it. So no worries on the glue drying. So I'll start these. And then I'll let the clamps do the work. Crazy, especially as this Titebond 2 seems to be setting up a little bit faster. I'm going to do some reading on that, see if people are finding the same thing. As I tighten the clamps, I'm making sure that my dominoes, or if you're using any other type of alignment tool, such as a biscuit or a dowel, that the edges are coming together smoothly, making sure that there's good glue squeeze out and not to over tighten the clamps. It's very important. When you over tighten them, you will start to see bowing or twisting. I'm wiping out glue squeeze out to make sure that it doesn't affect my final finish, because if I'm using an oil-based finish, the glue will stop that from penetrating. So I'm wiping this up, scraping, drying it off, making sure that everything looks good. Now I'm checking for flatness with an engineer's rule. I have a 36 and a 48-inch rule. Now I'm going to use my woodpecker's joint alignment tools. These are very easy. They sit on top of the joint and they get clamped together to ensure tight fits at the edges. Once the top is roughly clamped, it's very important to add clamps to the top. This will help keep your board super flat, and also in case there is a gap somewhere, it will help tighten things up. I'll put these alternating so that I have an over, under, over, and under clamp. And again, don't over tighten these. They just need mild pressure. And now I'm going to look for air gaps where I can see light underneath any clamps. And I'll see if I need to add any clamps on the ends where I'm clamping the tabletop to the clamp, and that will take care of any minimal gaps that I see in the tabletop. So now I'm dead flat on the Bessie. I'm looking down. Everything looks good. Put one on the top, spanning the glue joint, clamp it in, and now we're dead flat here. So I'll do another one here. I'll do two at the other end. We're dead flat here. Maybe a 64th high, nothing I'm going to worry about. Make sure. Many of us have built rolling tables, and this is a big advantage. I'm rolling the table to put on some more of the woodpecker's joint clamps, just to ensure that where the edges meet up of the three boards, that everything is pretty much dead flat. Again, this will make for minimal hand planing when I'm all done. So now I've got everything clamped up. May seem like a little bit of overkill, but I really like to get things dead flat now and not have to do a lot of planing and scraping. I will let this glue up probably overnight. I have another one already in clamps, and then I will do the third panel and the three leaf panels. So there are three of these sections for each, the main tabletop and the leaves. So these will be eventually glued up. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be posting another video in about 2 weeks.